Today, I'm gonna be doing what not many artists have done. I'm gonna be spoiling my entire OC story because, well, I'm revamping it. Or at least that's what I thought. It's a long story, but first we need to start in the beginning. This video is gonna consist of me explaining the origins of these characters, and basically spoiling the entire plot and redesigning the main four. Because boy does this story and these characters need changes. If you've been around my channel, you might have seen animations from my OC story. Yes, these all belong to the same story. This series was called Paladin, and was made in high school. I would mostly draw and animate these characters to keep myself entertained after school. Paladin centered around 4 demigods who fought interdimensional monsters in the modern day world. My main inspiration was the rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series. I remember watching the movie on my phone outside of class, and it blew my mind. I adored the animation, especially in the fight scenes, and I wanted to create my own budget hero team. You can actually see this change reflected in my TMNT animations straight to my Paladin videos on YouTube. I would come up with ideas for this story primarily by listening to musical numbers and walking around my house. Eventually, I had the basis of a plot and wanted to tell this entire story in 8 animatics. Suffice to say, I didn't get there. I completed 1 in total, the Not Your Seed animatic. But I'd still consider animating a 3-minute animatic to be an achievement. I worked 3 months on this, and I think it turned out great, especially for a teenager animating in their bedroom. There were a lot of aspects of Paladin's story and characters I didn't like, and I've attempted several rewrites. I thought for this video, it would be a fun idea to spoil the entire original story in the format of Moonkitty's I Spoil videos. I tried to condense and summarize everything as best as I could, but I had to remove some characters and plot lines. And it still came out to almost 9 minutes, so there is a lot to cover. With that being said, why don't I tell you my entire animated series? A rift between the physical and magical parallel realm threatens to destroy both of them. The rift allows monsters to travel from the magical realm to the physical realm. The monsters get agitated that they are not in the right environment and go on a rampage. The god assigned to look over these 2 realms has the brilliant idea to give 4 children godlike powers. With these powers, they are able to send the monsters back to the magical realm and seal up the rift. As a reward, the god gives them immortality and creates kingdoms for them to rule over in the magical realm. They become the sun, ocean, earth, and night deity. Decades pass, and the night deity has 3 apprentices: Callisto, Apollo, and Medea. Medea has the gift of healing and the ability to open portals. Callisto has the gift of dreams, and Apollo has the gift of prophecy. Apollo receives a prophecy that the night deity will become corrupt and turn against the other deities. I would never betray the deities, the night deity says. The night deity betrays the deities. He lets himself become corrupt by the rift to gain power and then turns against them. The other deities are barely able to defeat him, and the Night Kingdom is destroyed in the process. Everyone gains trauma. They become the star, nature, and sky deities. They all grow up to rebuild and lead the Night Kingdom. Callisto grows jealous of Apollo and Medea's relationship and their eventual romantic involvement as they grow farther apart. Medea founds the Nature Kingdom beside the Night Kingdom. A few centuries later, Apollo gets another prophecy, this time that Medea will betray the deities. Apollo shows the prophecy to the other deities. "You know what would be a great idea?" says the sun deity. "What if we banish the deity who can create portals to the rift?" "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." To everyone's shock, Medea comes back corrupted and looking for revenge. The Night and Nature Kingdom is destroyed. Again. Medea confronts Apollo and nearly kills him before Callisto saves him. Medea is destroyed by the other deities, or at least that's what they think. Callisto and Apollo give up on trying to run the kingdom. Many of the Night and Nature citizens flee to other kingdoms or the physical realm. I hope this won't have any lasting consequences for the future. A few more centuries have passed, and it is now the modern day world. More rifts have suddenly been showing up in the physical realm. The 4 most recent descendants of the deities are designed to work together to send these monsters back and seal up the rifts. Hoku, the prince of the sun realm, is sent to Earth as the most recent descendant of the sun deity. I also imagine this like a Cusco situation where Goku... Wait, why does my script say Goku? I also imagine this like a Cusco situation where Hoku has been spoiled all his life. Son, because of your spoiled and ungrateful attitude that I directly help foster, I'm making you someone else's responsibility by sending you to the physical realm to toughen up, says the sun deity. What? Says Hoku. Jade was a citizen in the physical realm, and like the majority of the population, had no idea about deities or the magical realm, until it is revealed that her missing father was the Earth deity and was fooling around on Earth. You can probably imagine how that conversation went. Hey girl, so turns out you're a demigod from another dimension, and you've been assigned to fight interdimensional monsters with another group of demigods. Also, I'm not God, you're my daughter. What the hell am I doing? What? Minnow is the granddaughter of the ocean deity and was raised by her father on Earth, but she was taught about paladin history. Orion was part of a, let's say, community of night descendants on the physical realm that worshipped the night deity, hoping he would one day come back. Orion just happened to be descended from the night deity. Lucky him. They form this odd ragtag team that fights monsters and seals rifts. Over time, they form bonds and create one of my favorite tropes, the found family. One of the important moments I will mention is that they visit Minnow's mom, who has been banished to the outskirts of the Ocean Kingdom for bad behavior. Maybe you shouldn't do that, says Minnow's mom. Along with the monsters they would fight, they would also butt heads with the rival monster hunting group, consisting of Azumi, Caleb, and Mason, who are all nature descendants. Azumi's team had previously been patching up rifts, and disliked how they're not acknowledged by the deities, so they compete with Hoku's team to try and seal off the most rifts.
Meanwhile,
Medea is barely able to hold on to life, but is unable to regenerate. She has to depend on one of her descendants. She chooses Audrey, a young nature paladin that has been ostracized and bullied by the other paladins. Audrey decides that she should just be the monster that everyone expects her to be and accepts Medea's offer. The season would end with the first encounter of Medea and Audrey. They are far too powerful for both of the teams, and Audrey takes Caleb into the rift. Paladin team tries to get in contact with the deities to tell them about the rising threat. Callisto wants to help them by explaining the history with Medea, but the other deities forbid him. Mentioning Medea or the night deity is strictly forbidden. Callisto goes behind their back and tells the team anyway. Callisto further reveals that the Paladin group was created because they were prophesied that they would take down the deities, and the deities wanted to keep track of them or hope they died during their duties. All of them are shocked, but Hoku is the most affected because he was the closest with his dad. Hoku is furious and demands a meeting with him and the deities. Callisto obliges. The deities hear them out and vote on what they want to do. Yeah, I mean, well, it's not affecting us yet, and I don't want our citizens to die, so that's gonna be a no from me. Hoku has a screaming fit. The deities realize that Callisto went behind their back, and they decide to banish Callisto. And Hoku too, for good measure. Very great leaders. Just before they can be consumed by the rift, a portal opens and they're dragged out by Mason. It is revealed that Mason is a star and nature hybrid, and was the secret son of Apollo and Medea. He was cast out into the physical realm and adopted by human parents, who didn't understand his paladin powers. One night, while he was sleeping, Callisto sensed Mason in his dreams. He comforted Mason and taught him how to hide and control his powers. When rifts started forming, he guided Mason on how to seal them up, and he formed a team with Caleb and Azumi. When Callisto hears the news of the Paladin team, he assigns Mason the task of keeping an eye on them. Of course, this reveal is a huge shakeup for everyone involved. The deities are angry and want Callisto and Mason dead. Apollo disowns Mason and joins the other deities. Izumi is upset with Mason for not telling her about it, and that the whole time the team was for one of the other deities.
Meanwhile,
Hoku questions Callisto why the god of this realm hasn't intercepted. Callisto isn't sure, but he believes it's because he saw how giving human godlike powers led to, and decided to no longer intervene. Hoku does not take this well. Are you okay? Jade says. God is dead and we killed him, says Hoku. Hoku officially becomes emo. They come up with the idea of usurping the ocean deity's throne with Minnow's mom, to at least have the ocean's kingdom powers. The four, with Callisto and Mason's help, are able to travel to the ocean realm and convince Minnow's mom. When hearing about the oncoming attack, Apollo joins the ocean deity to help. The ocean deity and Minnow's mom prepare to settle it with a duel. The ocean deity overwhelms Minnow's mom and is about to kill her when Apollo, after reflecting over everything he's done, steps in and subdues the ocean deity, letting Minnow's mom take over the throne. Callisto's deity status is reinstated, and the three of them overthrow the vote, The deities now are at war with Medea and Audrey. Hoku realizes that his friends have supported him all along. He decides to fully cut any attachment to his father or the deities and focuses on his team instead of bathing in self-loathing and anger. In other news on daddy issues, family counseling between Apollo and Mason is not going well. They have this super epic battle off-screen. Callisto and Mason open a portal to Medea's mind that Apollo accesses. He apologizes for everything that has happened to her. Medea finally lets herself rest, and the threat is defeated. Caleb and Audrey are freed. The other deities are dethroned, and the team decides that immortality and permanent leadership is flawed and should not be given to anyone. Well, that was something. The animation doesn't look like it took too much effort, but trust me, drawing 32 sprites and animating 9 minutes of content in 4 days starts to get to you. On day 4, I swear I looked into Hoku's beady eyes and he looked back. Writing the script for the I Spoil segment was the first time I've fully written the story. I mostly had pieces and fragments in my head and scattered across Google Docs, so being able to watch the whole core story for Paladins, no matter how crappy the animation was, is still pretty rewarding. Believe me when I say this recap does not do the characters justice. You do not get to see the pain on their faces as they go through the things I put them through. There are a lot of plot holes and things that don't make sense. But making this entire animation has kinda made me fond of the old story. I like these themes of generational trauma and corrupt people in power that are the parents of the main characters, no less. After some consideration, I've decided to build onto the story I already have instead of completely rewriting it. I've been working with these characters for a while and I want a finished narrative, even if it isn't perfect, so I can work on other projects like my Wipeout/Stardom comic. So we're sticking with the original story, and I'm gonna make changes that will actually make the scope smaller and easier for me to build on. I'm just one tiny guy. Don't be afraid to cut things if it makes your story better and easier to work with. Kill those darlings. One of the big changes is that instead of the deities having separate kingdoms, they instead rule over one civilization in the physical realm. In polytheistic religions with multiple gods, they all serve one civilization. When the Star Kingdom is destroyed, it's instead the society that all the deities have been working with. All of the deities give up on trying to rule the civilization. The memory of the deities slowly fades until we reach a pretty similar modern day world. There's still a lot of kinks to work out, like the time and place. Designing all of the kingdoms was one of the things that was holding me back from this story, so I'm glad I came up with this idea. Instead, the monsters coming from the magical realm would be directly from the rift, infecting the world. There was always the idea of some kind of sentient species born from the magical world, but there is just not enough room in the story. I want to keep it somewhat focused. What I am keeping is the general backstory of the deities and the ending. The middle and beginning is flexible. It doesn't necessarily have to be Minnow's mom that takes over the throne, just something that involves Apollo's redemption and Callisto being reinstated as a deity. Like the story, we aren't gonna be entirely revamping the characters, just tweaking the designs to making them a whole lot better. With that being said, let's get to the main four. First things first, a paladin is basically a deity human demigod. I don't really think I explained that in the I Spoil video, my bad. So these paladins have these animal bits that they summon with their weapons. They're cute, recognizable, and easy to animate, but I don't think they really convey demigod. So I thought instead if we gave them crowns, it makes a lot more sense, and there's a bunch of ideas I could go with. The challenge I have with these OCs is coming up with a design I like while still making it animation friendly, because boy, I animate these characters a lot. I am going to be remaking these ref sheets I made about a year ago. The main reason this video is in June is so I have an excuse to draw refs for Art Fight. More on that later. I love these comic panel designs, though the idea was heavily inspired by a couple ref sheets posted on Jumpy June's Twitter, aka Ginger Ninja OWO on YouTube. I really took a lot from June's ref sheets. Sorry about that, man. Love your work. And first up we have Hoku, the main star of the show. I've always loved the arrogant, self-centered character going through development and changing. Hoku is the type of person to hide his fears and insecurities by joking and being the most irritating person possible just to let you know nothing bothers him. One of my favorite aspects of writing Hoku is coming up with the slow reveal that maybe Hoku's spoiled upbringing wasn't as perfect or desired as originally shown. A negligent father, no matter the wealth or status, is still neglectful. Basically, daddy issues with extra layers. I love daddy issues. And transitioning from that to the speed paint, his design needs a lot of work. It's always been hard figuring out an outfit that is laid back, but also something Hoku would be able to fight in, which leads to outfit designs Hoku would only wear. During the speed paint, you can see me add and remove details until I got something I wanted. I also kind of regret the pose I chose because it doesn't show off the whole design, so I had to awkwardly move their arm. I have decided we're keeping the jacket that looks like it's gonna fall off, but doesn't because of anime logic. It has this inner soft part of the jacket that sticks out. I've also decided to make the jacket longer. It makes them look more royal. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I've always associated royal clothing to be longer, so yeah, we're gonna go with that. Hoku is one of the characters I'm gonna keep the original weapon. The sword and shield work, and let me tell you, I have a hard time drawing complex weapons, especially in animation. Maybe later down the line I'll design a new sword and shield, but for now it works. I was really going back and forth whether I should get rid of Hoku's scarf, because it's always been a vital part of his design. But like a lot of Hoku's design aspects, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I have made the executive decision to cut the scarf, since it contributes a lot less to a silhouette now with the long robe, and another reason I will get to later. When experimenting with Hoku's design a bit back, I drew him with natural dark brown hair and I liked it a lot more. It feels like Hoku self-dyed his hair into the most obnoxious orange he could find, and that is really funny to me. And here's Hoku's finished ref sheet. I cannot express how happy I am with this design. Next up we have Minnow, the resident baby and adrenaline junkie of the group. I have a few problems with her design. Let's get into it. So first, these frills on her shirt don't work for me. I know what I was going for, but I just don't like it. Instead, I gave her a t-shirt and put the frills on the sleeves. It worked way better. So Minnow is supposed to be the descendant of the ocean deity, but her design doesn't really read ocean. Her animal bits are supposed to be a sea otter, but I wouldn't blame you if you couldn't tell. The idea of coming up with an ocean-themed crown sounded really fun, and I was right. I love the crown design, and the seashells and fins really work. You can see yet again I struggled in coming up with a dynamic pose while showing off the design. I realized the pose I had picked for her left arm wouldn't be able to naturally stick out like that. I really need to take pictures or find references of action poses, or I end up drawing poses that look fine in the moment, but isn't a pose a human could naturally make. Minnow's weapons were these shurikens that would bounce around and shoot spouts of water from the center. It's an interesting idea that does fit Minnow and her early season mischief, but it doesn't really read like a godlike weapon, if that makes sense. I want to try a harpoon since that's in line with the ocean theme, and it works for now, though it's pretty basic. I might have to come back to it and experiment more with the power and gimmick aspect. Here's baby girl. I have to say overall this one's my favorite. I love the crown and her headshot is so cute. And third is Orion, the anxiety-ridden, socially awkward bookworm, who is definitely not raised in a cult. I cannot express how much Orion did not want to be the night deity descendant, but oh well, it's fate. He's just gonna have to deal with it. I see Orion as a foil to Minnow, and Hoku as a foil to Jade, meaning the character's personality and beliefs are completely different. While Minnow can't wait to jump into action, and sometimes doesn't think before she acts, Orion overthinks and never takes action. But onto his ref sheet, Orion was by far the easiest to draw. I really liked his second design. Just look at his little scarf, it's so cute. Also, one of the reasons I got rid of Hoku's scarf. What can I say, Orion just pulls it off way better. Not much needs changing, just the weapon and designing the crown. For reasons we do not have time to get into, I wanted to switch Orion fully to a magic-based weapon instead of his dual bow knives he had earlier. I I wanted to show off his night theme more, so I just straight up put an upside down crescent moon on his head with stars and wings. I love the wing crown way more than the wing ears though, not gonna lie. I have a few ideas for Orion that I haven't fully fleshed out, but I've been entertaining. Let's just say Orion might be a little closer to the night deity than a distant descendant. And here's my son. Please don't raise your voice around him, he gets scared. Lastly, we are on to Jade, the team mom who is just trying her best. She is often the one that holds the team together and stops Hoku and Minnow from making rash decisions. It is also the one with the least experience fighting or knowing anything about paladin culture. Jade had to drop out of community college and abandon normal life to fight monsters. Like, imagine one day in your normal average life, some guy dressed in medieval armor appears in front of you and tells you that you are a demigod assigned to fight monsters. That's what happened to Jade, and she's not dealing with it the best. Since Jade is a foil to Hoku, she ends up being similar to Orion. She just knows how to suppress her emotions more. Hopefully that won't come back in the future. So I have been experimenting with drawing Jade in a big jacket, and Jade's already pretty tall. It's probably an extra large men's jacket, like dysphoria hoodie enveloping the entire character big. What can I say? I like drawing big characters with bigger clothes. The problem was I had trouble showing the jacket was big without it looking awkward. The only pose that really looked good was when she had her hands in her pockets. So this is the only reference where a character isn't holding their weapon. Whoops. I'm sure I'll figure out how to draw her in other poses eventually. And on the plus side, I really like how the final pose came out. The walking pose was also really hard to do, and it's definitely not perfect. I'm just happy it looks somewhat natural. I had trouble figuring out the inner jacket colors. I ended up just going with lighter values of red. Jade is keeping her weapon of double axes that can extend from the handle with chains. It kind of works like Mikey's weapon in Rise. I can imagine some really cool fight scenes with that. For the crown, I went with these ram horns I liked better than her previous horns, and a jade crown for obvious reasons. I think I'm the least happiest with her redesign, what sucks because she's one of my favorite characters to draw from Paladins. I do still like it, and I think it's a huge improvement. Here's Jade. She just wanted to take a nap but ended up adopting 3 children. And here are the 4 finished ref sheets. And my god, comparing these to the original references blew my mind. You really don't realize how much you've improved until you compare your old art side to side with your new art. I have to do redesigns for all of the other characters, including the deities, but that's for a future project. Since I've already spoiled the core plot of the series to you, what if we built Paladins together? I would love feedback or suggestions from all of you. The plot I've presented is very flawed, and I would like to improve to go on to build bigger and better stories. As much information as I crammed into this video, this is not all I have. There were a few characters I didn't even mention and new characters I may or may not add in. After some consideration and seeing how other social medias are on fire right now, I've decided to open a Tumblr for my OCs and stories where you can ask questions and I can try to respond to them. Just be patient. I haven't really used Tumblr before, but I'll try my best. I'm gonna be dumping all my old Paladin art, probably tag something like old Paladin art. We'll see how that goes. Also, I'm joining Art Fight this year with my Paladin and Wipeout characters. I'm mostly gonna be running on a solely revenge basis because I will be busy during July. But I'll try to avenge every attack I get, so if you want art from me, you know what to do. With that being said, thank you so much for reaching the end of this video. It truly means a lot. I hope to see you soon. Koi out.